Grammar in use. Watch this video and learn how to talk about past habits in English. If you don't know me very well, hello, I'm teacher Prix, and I'm going to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime in English. Make sure to subscribe to my channel because every week I post different kinds of English lessons to help you become a better and more confident English speaker. So I appreciate you becoming part of this beautiful community of students from all over the world who want to be fluent. Now, talk about past habits. Let's do that. Guys, here on my channel, I help pre-intermediate and intermediate students, B1, B2, depending on the lesson, C1 students. And grammar is essential. No matter what your level is, you will need to study grammar, okay? You can't escape grammar. So I am a big advocate, when it comes to English grammar. Of course, not studying grammar in a boring way, but using grammar to speak, okay? At the end of this video, I invite you to post one example using the grammar that I'm going to teach. And while you create that example, connect that example with your life. So don't simply create an example. John liked Sally. Who's John? Who's Sally? But talk about something that is related to your life. This is what I teach in my academy. With my students from my academy, my BSA, I call my students BSA, Baby Sardine in the Area. That is exactly what I teach them. In every module of the program, they have grammar, they have vocabulary. And they do not have grammar exercises. Complete the sentences. No. They have to create because fluent people create. That being said, past habits. If you don't know what the word habit is, I encourage you to stop right now and check the meaning, not in Portuguese or in Spanish or in Italian, not the translation, but the explanation of what a habit is. But in a nutshell, a habit is something you do regularly. For example, you brush your teeth, right? It's a habit, it's an action you do repeatedly. Until it becomes a habit, you don't even need to think about it anymore. And we have present habits, things you do nowadays in your present time. Okay, every week I post videos. This is a habit of mine. It's not only my job, but it's something that became part of my life. And I have past habits. Now, should you use simple past? Just simple past and that's enough? Well, you will have to use simple past. Let's make that very clear. But I will make some observations about how to talk about past habits. Because look at this phrase here, okay? Basically, when I am making a simple past tense, I need a subject, a person, the teacher, something that represents the subject. Then I need a verb in the past form. Then I need something to complete the idea of the sentence. She took. She took what? Okay? So that's basically a simple sequence to a phrase. So if you look at the screen and I say, and you read, I took dance lessons. It's not enough. It's simple past. Very nice. I took dance lessons, but I don't understand the habit. Because understand here, habit, it's the repetition. Something you did regularly in the past. Or if you use simple present, then it's present. So I need a little bit more to express the idea of repetition in the past, to express the idea of habit. So that's important. So let's take a look at the next page, the next slide, excuse me. I took dance lessons when I was a child. Oh, that's better. So I will show you more ways, okay? This is one simple way. So here, I took dance lessons when I was a child. So when I was a child, I'm being more specific about the past. And here I do have an idea of habit, of repetitions. I took dance lessons when I was a child. We can improve this, but it's a great start. So whenever you want to talk about past habits, things you did in the past, but not anymore, you stopped, okay? For any reason, it doesn't matter what the reason is, but you did in the past, but you don't do anymore. So this is a good way. And here are some ideas It doesn't mean you can only do this, but these are ideas. When I was a child, when I was in college, when I was in high school 10 years ago, while I lived abroad, So while I lived abroad, I can talk about past habits. I don't live abroad anymore. I live in my country. I live in Brazil. Okay. When I was in college, when I worked as a teacher's assistant, when I worked as a product management analyst, so these are good compliments. These are good sentences, but these are ideas, okay? And these are possible complements that can complete the idea of habit in the past. Look at the examples. When I was a child, I loved watching TV after lunch. That's wonderful. When I was a child, okay, so I think of childhood. I was a child in the past. Look at me now. Take a look at me now. I'm not a child. I'm an adult. My wrinkles. Oh my God. But I loved watching. So here I am showing a past preference, a past habit. I loved watching TV after lunch. Watching TV after lunch. This is a habit, but in the past. Okay? And that's what I am trying, that's the idea I'm trying to convey here. Okay? Another example, when I lived abroad, this is true. Okay? Both examples are true for me. Okay? To me. When I lived abroad, I didn't call my parents every day. I was very busy. I could connect the two sentences with because I was very busy. When I lived abroad, I didn't call my parents every day because I was very busy. Actually true. I think I called my parents once a week or sometimes once every 2 weeks, okay? I called them regularly, I called them regularly, but not every day. I didn't talk to my parents every day while I lived abroad, okay? So these are sentences that can express the idea of past habit. But can we improve this? Yes. Let's take a look at this, Affirmative and negative sentences. Let me show you some examples. I can use the verb use in the past form. Okay? I will show questions, but let's focus on affirmation and negation. Affirmative sentences, negative sentences. I can use the verb use in the past form, used, okay? I can use this verb to show past habits. It is extremely common, okay? Native speakers used to talk about past habits. And when you use used to, you will need another verb. You will need the verb of the action, okay? If we go back a previous slide, I took dance lessons, so take, okay? Take dance lessons. I used to take dance lessons. So see, I used to take dance lessons. I used to take dance lessons. So only used is not enough unless I am using the verb use in the past. Oh, I used my phone a few minutes ago. That's not past habit. It's only simple past. Okay, so it's important to understand that there are different uses of the verb use. And here, used to, you will need the verb to describe the action you used to do 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when you were a child, when you were in college, when you lived in the countryside, okay? So when I lived in the countryside, I used to see my neighbors every day. Okay, yeah. I mean, they would always pass by my house. We would say hello and we would talk for a few minutes. That's actually true. I don't live in the countryside anymore, but I used to live in the countryside. And when I did, this used to happen. I used to greet my neighbors every day. I used to know everybody. I knew everybody, okay? So that's the gist. Look at this example here. I didn't use negative because I can do this as well. I didn't used to eat junk food while I lived in the United States. Actually, not so true. I didn't used to eat junk food while I lived in the United States. Okay, it's partially true. I tried to have a balanced diet, I didn't like to eat hamburgers all the time. Okay, so I didn't used to eat burgers while I lived in the United States because I felt sick. Every time I tried having a burger, I would feel sick like 5 minutes later. And I tried different places, okay, different joints. I tried McDonald's, I tried Burger King, I tried, what's the name of that girl? You know, the Wendy's. I tried Wendy's, failed miserably. I don't know what they put in those burgers, but I always felt sick to my stomach, okay? So I ate a few times. Even nowadays, okay, I can't. Now it's even worse. But anyway, it's not the subject of the lesson. But I didn't used to eat burgers while I lived in the United States from junk food, you know, from fast food restaurants. This is actually true. So I can describe a past habit I had and a past habit I didn't have, okay? It was not common for me to do that. My friends used to love burgers. They used to go to McDonald's and Burger King all the time. Me, on the other hand, I didn't used to eat burgers and junk food because I got sick. I could only have the fries, okay? The fries were okay. But the burgers, no, it was really bad, okay? So you will use used to or didn't used to when you want to talk about past habits, activities you did regularly in the past but no longer do in the present. Okay? Or the opposite can be true. I can talk about something I didn't do in the past, but now I do. Okay? I didn't used to eat so many vegetables when I was a child, but now I do. Do you eat vegetables? So I'm talking about something I didn't do regularly in the past. When I was a child, I didn't used to eat vegetables. I hated vegetables, okay? I hated them. But now I eat them on a regular basis because I need to. And I like them, quite honestly. I've been able to change my taste and I eat much better nowadays. I eat more healthy food and I feel really proud of myself. But anyway, you may still need a compliment, okay? You may still need, when I was a child, when I was in high school, 10 years ago, while I lived abroad, you will still need them to make your sentence clear. But this verb is an excellent complement, and I strongly recommend you use it. And there is more, okay? I will show you. Now, you can also ask questions, okay, with use to. Remember, when I'm making questions in English, I don't usually change the verb. There are exceptions. That's not the focus of this lesson, but I don't typically change the verb. The verb goes back to base form, and I use did. Did you? Look, I have 3 questions for you. What did you used to eat when you were a child? Past habit, okay? What did you used to eat when you were a child? Number 2, what school subjects did you used to enjoy when you were in high school? Not elementary school, not kindergarten, when you were in high school. What subjects did you used to enjoy? None? Come on, at least one, okay? And 3, what places did you used to visit every week while you lived in Boston? I lived in Boston, so you can change this. While you lived in the United States, while you lived in New York, okay? So what places did you used to visit every week while you lived abroad? While you lived in Europe, okay? So while I lived in Boston, I used to go to, what's the name? I used to visit Boston Common every week. I loved going to that park. Okay, it's almost like a park, you know, green area, very beautiful. So I used to love that place, okay? And last year I went to Boston again on vacation, and that's pretty much the first place I went to, because I absolutely love Boston Common. It's a beautiful green area, and I miss it. Okay, so whenever I have a chance, I go there, and it's wonderful. But you can adapt the question, okay? Before I move on to another important way to describe past habit, hey, make sure to subscribe to this channel, share this lesson with a friend, and if you're interested, I have an amazing study plan cycle that will show you how to study. how to organize your English study routine. Because if you're alone, my friend, I know it can be difficult. You type English lessons on Google and you have a million options. So how do you filter? How do you organize everything? I teach you in my study plan. And also my listening mastery workshop. Awesome strategies to help you understand native and non-native speakers anywhere, anytime. Well, let's keep going. Using would. Would can also be used to talk about activities in the past that you did regularly. It is very common, okay, and a little bit more advanced if we compare to used to. So used to is typically the first thing we explain to students, okay? That's the first explanation we give when we're talking about past habits. Used to. But then the next step is would, okay? And there are different uses. There are different ways to use would. But here, I want to show you one that is really, that's what it means. Past habits. Things you did on a regular basis when you were a child, 10 years ago, when you were in college. Depends on the complement, okay? But nowadays, you don't do anymore. Now, keep in mind that typically it is not a rule. It's not in the book, okay? This is an explanation that I'm going to share, but be cautious. But typically, this is more common in affirmative sentences. Can you ask questions? Yes. Can you make negative sentences? Yes. My recommendation is stick to affirmative sentences, okay? They don't typically teach this in books because it's not in the books. You can use in any situation. Whatever you want to do about past habits, go for it. But based on experience, this is commonly used in affirmative sentences. So look at the examples. 2 examples. Whenever my godmother came to visit, she would bring me a present. Okay? This is actually true. Not necessarily a present. Sometimes she would bring me a candy, okay? So when I was a child, whenever she came to visit, and she came to visit quite regularly, she would bring me a chocolate, she would bring me a doll, she would bring me a little present, or she would bring me like a dress or a t-shirt. She would bring me something. So all of these sentences I made, she would bring me a toy, she would bring me a candy. All of these sentences I'm talking about, I am describing a past habit. Something my godmother did in the past. Nowadays, she doesn't do it anymore, okay? She's very old nowadays, so it's okay, all right? I remember, another example, I remember that every Christmas, I would get up early and rush downstairs to open my Christmas presents. See? I remember that every Christmas morning, I would get up early and rush downstairs to open my Christmas presents. That is not true in my case. Okay, in Brazil, we don't open the Christmas presents on the next day. We open them at night from 24th to 25th. Okay, so that's typically our tradition. So I don't remember that. Okay, rarely would my parents let us make us wait until the next day to open the presents. But it is what it is, okay? So that is another example, guys. This is very common when you're talking about past habits. It's not just simple past. Oh, I went to the movies yesterday. No, you cannot use would to talk about one particular action in the past, but one that was repeated regularly, that indicates a habit, something you did more frequently. Then you can use would or used to. That was the goal of this lesson. Now, as I said, to learn a lesson, I must use it. Post one example, share this lesson with a friend. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.